thanks to all the rain that we've been getting in this part of the country lately, I found myself spending a lot more time indoors than usual. I didn't do anything constructive with this time, like ponder the complexities of capitalism like a good economist should. Instead, I spent almost all this time in my pajamas, on the couch, binge-watching teen movies. Now, much as the makers of these films may try to change the characters, and if you're lucky, add a serial killer to the mix here and there, watching one teen movie after another over the span of a weekend makes one realize just how remarkably similar the storylines are. So all these movies, of course, have the jock character. This is the guy over which all the girls swoon. Then you have the beautiful it girl character. This is the girl that's envied by all for her flawless good looks and her general ability to strut her stuff. And then, of course, no teen movie would be complete without the female ugly duckling protagonist who magically undergoes a metamorphosis towards the end of the movie. This is the girl that nobody wants to dance with, the girl that people literally die when she wants to join them at recess. So as I approached my fifth such movie, my brain started working a bit. I started to notice parallels between the world of these movies and the South African economy. I got quite excited as I began to liken the characters to the various sectors of our economy. Because, I mean, let's face it, some sectors are just cooler than others, okay? So if we were to create our own teen movie based on the South African economy, sectors like the financial services sector and the mining sector would arguably play the roles of the jock and the it girl. These are sectors that young people scramble to get into, sectors that enjoy the highest media and investor attention, despite lackluster performance, I might say. But yeah, and I mean, the financial services sector might even be regarded as the bad boy of sectors with all its crisis-inducing shenanigans and negative ripple effects. But anyways. But in our movie, the agricultural sector would, without a doubt, play the role of the perpetual ugly duckling who, despite her best efforts, is never regarded cool enough. Now, while all the cool sectors thrive in glory and attention, poor agriculture's allocation of the national budget has been below 3% for the longest time. In fact, in recent years, this allocation has been decreasing in recent terms. Data by the Department of Agriculture shows that investment in the sector has been on a downward spiral for years. Further evidence of our lack of coolness may be found in the fact that young people don't want to work in agriculture. They don't see this as a viable career choice. This has resulted in an aging farmer base, the average age of which is sometimes estimated at 62. We simply can't continue this way. Now, as an economist, I've often found this relegation of agriculture to the loser table quite surprising because data has consistently shown how important and how crucial we are for this economy. So, Stats SA in its latest review of economic growth shows that agriculture was the single largest positive contributor to GDP in the third quarter of last year. Research conducted by the National Treasury shows that agriculture creates more unskilled jobs than any other sector in this economy per extra unit of output. Now, this is a very important point to make, considering that about 90% of our unemployed is considered to be unskilled. The fact that agriculture is one of the only sectors that can employ a large number of unskilled laborers is a very, very important one to make. When we look at international trade, this sector certainly earned its stripe by being a consistent net exporter and an important earner of foreign exchange. So, I mean, we contribute about 12% to total export earnings and outperform the rest of the economy when it comes to earning foreign exchange relative to our size. So, given all this, it's very clear that the National Development Plan was on the right path when it put agriculture at the center of the machinery that is to take us to what we want to be in come the year 2013. So, I mean, the data speaks for itself. It's in the public domain, it's there. We are not the ugly ducklings because we're lame and don't contribute. When it comes to our current sorry state of neglect, something else is at play. Because logically, a sector as resilient and as important as agriculture should be attracting more attention from government, from business, from the public at large. Investors should be knocking our doors down trying to get in, but they're not. In the decade that I've spent in this sector, these are issues I've thought about quite a lot. And through countless discussions and imbizos and years of observation, it finally dawned on me that much like that girl that nobody wants to dance with, agriculture has a serious image problem. They often say that in business, image isn't everything. It's the only thing, darling. And when it comes to agriculture, this saying, coupled with our ugly duckling affliction, should be a wake-up call, a call for us to revisit the manner in which we present our great sector. Other sectors, think of mining, have managed to take control of the narrative around how they are perceived. Why can't we? I mean, think about this. Despite strides made and pockets of excellence in the fields of innovation, value addition, entrepreneurship, technology, and agriculture, many people, maybe including some here, still associate agriculture almost exclusively with grey hair, dirty boots, rural underdevelopment, and failed government programs. In this day and age, why is that? I'm not saying that we don't have an important part to play in developing rural areas and in pulling thousands out of poverty. I'm just saying that there's so much more to agriculture. We have so much more to offer. So when I talk about image building, I'm not talking about expensive marketing campaigns with corny lines about how sexy the sector can be, as we often have seen. I'm talking about digging down to the core and talking to those investors who are seeking returns, to entrepreneurs looking for opportunities, to policymakers seeking solutions on how to shape our societies, and to professionals who are looking for exciting and meaningful careers. I highlight the role of professionals because it is only with the best and brightest minds that this continent has to offer that we can start to move from our state of neglect and start attracting the kind of investor attention that we need to grow this great sector. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that image building alone will save this ugly duckling of ours. I know we have very serious problems, especially if you look at things like policy certainty and the need to redress the injustices of the past. All these complex challenges will undoubtedly have equally complex solutions. I'm saying that while we wait for those solutions to unfold, we need to act. And we need to act with urgency, because for every second that we continue to perpetuate a narrow view of the sector, we contribute to its neglect, much to the detriment of our own economic prosperity and food security. We don't need to change what we're doing fundamentally. We just need to repackage what is already working in a manner that more holistically represents what the sector is about. So for instance, let's start by changing the narrative that agriculture is just about farming and the farmer, and show that there is room for all professionals to make a home in this great sector. As Africa moves towards this great revolution, we're going to need innovators to help us think about issues of climate change. We'll need lawyers and IT whizzes to help us navigate the complexities of cross-border trade. We'll need business and finance majors to help us find innovative ways of funding. And we'll need economists like me, maybe, hopefully, to help us think about how to improve profitability in the sector. Let's also start to adopt a more investor-friendly lingo in this sector. We know that agriculture is important for development, but it's also important for investors. Let's brag about the fact that investments in South African farmland have yielded higher returns than international and domestic equity indices. Let's boast about the fact that because of upward class mobility and urbanization, our food producer stocks on the JSE have been outperforming many others for the past decade. That is great news. Let's also not forget about our friends in the value chain. Agriculture sells 70% of its outputs to manufacturing. These manufacturers, in turn, employ about 40% of all the laborers in the manufacturing sector. We need to consider these. They are as much a part of agriculture as we are. When you take the backward and forward linkages, this sector contributes a staggering 7% to this economy. And finally, let's also brag about things that I think are super cool, about things like the fact that investments in ag tech have exceeded investments in fintech over the past few years. Who knew that? So it's through simple things like that, verbal actions, that we can start to radically change how people view agriculture, create the excitement needed for us to start attracting the investment that we so deserve. We can move the sector out of obscurity and into the offices of bankers and Santon and into the mainstream of economic discussion. I believe that while the challenges are many, everything is in place for a scintillating and Hollywood-worthy makeover of this sector. But we need you to be in that glam squad. I challenge you to rethink the kind of archaic stereotypes that have persisted in this sector for decades on end, and let's make agriculture an ugly duckling no more.